cloud. We are recording in 3, 2, 1. Satellite delay. It's going to be in seconds. Yeah. Yes, here we go. We're recording.
Thank you. Hello and welcome to our live journey around the clock. We're following the sun around the globe, and I have standing with me Angela Wright. For one strange reason, for once we're in the same country at the same time, almost. So Angela, I'd love to introduce you if that's all right.
Please.
I'm looking at I'm looking at the site, and I'm fortunate that we have had a chance to chat for a few moments, so we're not exactly strangers. But Angela, she's from a farming family, most interested in holistic health. Angela is Humanity Plus Business Strategist, co-founder of complementary health businesses, Mintycoco, and Get Your Boom Back.
Indeed.
Wright uses her life's work to positively showcase how to live like it's heaven on earth here and now. Her mission is to change the world before lunchtime with health and wisdom and products that enable more of us to live better. Now I'm curious, before lunchtime?
Indeed. You know, your mum always said to you, it's what you get done in the morning that counts. So it's such an opportunity to change your world before lunchtime. And when we change our world, we change everything we impact upon, because you know, babies are dependent, right? Completely dependent. And teenagers, as teenagers, you'll remember, you like to think you're completely independent. And yet, when we become adults, we realize everything is interdependent. Everything. How you are and feel and what you do impacts in a greater or lesser way me. And it's the same for 7.5 billion of us around the world. And it's the same for the trillions upon trillions of everything else and every other type of person in the world, whether it's a tiny little bacteria or a big creature or a tree or whatever. So everything's interdependent. And so what we do, especially first thing in the morning, makes a big difference. So change well before lunchtime. That's the plan.
All right. So what do we do? What do we do before lunchtime? What's the first thing?
Oh, okay, that's a really good point, actually, because I think the first thing is, if you can get some decent hours of sleep, then you can get up in the morning. And I remember when we first came to Australia, we're from Britain, so we came to Australia a few years ago, and couldn't believe how many people were up ridiculously early in the morning. And my husband David said, don't these people realise there's only one 5 o'clock in the day, and that's gin and tonic time? And yet now, maybe we've Australianised or something, but the mornings are such a blessing, aren't they? And I met a farmer years ago here, and he said, I don't like to let the sun beat me out of bed. And I thought that's such a good philosophy.
I love that.
That's a tough thing to do, and yet if you can get the Zeds in beforehand, and really we're talking about 7.5 to 8 hours sleep. One of our earlier presenters actually was saying, typically the hours before midnight are when you're doing your physical healing, and the hours after midnight are when you're doing your emotional or mental healing. I thought that was really interesting. But if you can get enough hours, if you can get up early, well, that's the first thing. You've got a head start on just about a lot of other people in the world. And if you can be grateful, I think when you first wake up, you know, you can be grateful for your comfortable bed or whatever it is, and that gratitude raises the vibrations of your body. And just if you can be counting your blessings, especially when before you go to sleep, you know, count your blessings instead of sheep. That's always a good plan. And then look at them again in the morning. And then the first physical thing to do, or maybe the first, but one of the first physical things to do is oil pulling. And I'm such a strong proponent for oil pulling. And I found out about it because when I was 17, I knocked out my 2 front teeth on my horse. And these two. And the horse tried to jump a gate from a standstill. I was looking the other way, wasn't expecting to jump gates anytime soon. Horse and gate and me hit the ground. And my teeth hit the ground before the rest of me. And they used to stick out. So as a teenager and a child, I hated those teeth. So there they were, they've gone, knocked clean out. So these are porcelain. And after coming to Australia, I realised that my other teeth were starting to discolour. And ever since I got these porcelain ones fitted, and I could at last smile properly because they didn't stick out anymore. I sort of became a bit known for having a big smile because, you know, I could. And the rest of them were discolouring. So I looked at, oh my goodness, what can I do to fix this? Looked at all of the different methods. Really didn't want to put bleach in my mouth. And I know a lot of people do that regularly, but you know, it's so hugely damaging. The delicate tissues in your mouth, your enamel, let alone the environment and the way it's created as well, tested on animals, all the rest of it. And for a beauty product, I thought, I don't want to patronize something that's tested on animals just for aesthetic reasons. Because at the time, I was only thinking of it as an aesthetic thing. Whiter teeth makes you feel better, makes you look younger, just more pleasant, really. But as I researched this, I was finding out more and more about oil pulling. It's an ancient Ayurvedic technique. It's 3,000 years old. And I started looking for some latest clinical research. And I discovered there's actually been a lot of clinical trials, about 15 tests, medical studies, clinical trials around the world, proving beyond any shadow of doubt that not only does it whiten your teeth by removing the plaque, but it also reduces tooth decay and reduces gum disease. And gum is so crucial to your health because a doctor explained it to me like this. If you think of your mouth as the beginning of the pipe and you have a pipe going all the way through your body, and all of your food is meant, and liquid is meant to go through there, and only what's meant to permeate is meant to permeate. But if you if this part isn't healthy, if this part is bleeding when you brush your teeth in the mornings, or if you floss, for instance, and it's bleeding, and it shouldn't be like that. And so what oil pulling does is the oil seeps into all of the little nooks and crevices. As one gets a little bit older, the gums tend to recede. They recede dramatically if you have gingivitis, which is the first stage of gum disease, or you know, worse gum disease. And so the oil can seep in there, and it sort of magnetizes all of the bad bugs in your mouth. And you've got about 8 billion microorganisms in your mouth: bad bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites, living off all of that. So what happens is, when you swallow that, your stomach acid deals with it. That's not a problem. But if you damage the delicate tissues in your mouth, perhaps by brushing or flossing, perhaps your gums are inflamed as a sign of inflammation through your body, they're a little bit red or puffy and they bleed easily, then those microorganisms go straight into your bloodstream and really inflame the body. So that's the thing to prevent. So when you oil pull first thing in the morning, you can remove those bad bacteria. And you know, in the morning you want to just get rid of that overnight taste in the mouth. So most of us brush our teeth and floss then, just to get it over and done with and taste better. So what we did when I found out all of this medical evidence for oil pulling and realised that A, most people didn't know about it, B, the ones who did, the majority of them had tried it briefly but didn't continue because, let's face it, you need quite a strong stomach and iron discipline to oil pull with raw oil first thing in the morning. It's not the most pleasant experience. So I thought, with my little team, we thought there's got to be a better way to do this. So we created something called Mintycoco, little sachets of coconut oil flavored with peppermint oil, organic, natural. So it tastes great and it freshens your mouth first thing in the morning. And people say, but aren't you meant to oil pull for somewhere between 5 and 25 minutes? I could never spare that time. Well, actually, it takes 20 seconds to oil pull, because all you do is you tear the top off the sachet and put it in your mouth and then carry on. You have a shower and do your hair and maybe your face and make the bed and feed the dog and have the breakfast. And the only thing is you can't talk, but you can do everything else. You can do your messages and your emails, you know, and check Skype and whatever it is you need to do first thing in the morning. Deal with all of that, but you just are a little bit silent. So the house is nice and calm in the morning if everybody's oil pulling. Especially when you get your kids onto it. So it's this wonderful moment of morning calm. So we brought out a kids version called Mouth Monsters. just for kids. And we've got some naturally flavoured with peppermint, tastes like mint ice cream, and some with strawberry natural flavour.
Nice.
So it tastes like strawberry ice cream too. So the kids go really quiet first thing in the morning when they're all oil things. So that's the first thing, or the first two things. Be grateful. Oh no, three things. Wake up early if you can, if you've slept well, if you've gone to bed early enough, and be grateful and oil pull. So.
Now, I know we're going to have all the links and everything for people at the end or in the show notes in the recording, but for people that are sitting here right now that want to know how to find these, where did we go, Angela? Sorry, I know that I'm jumping the gun, but I can't wait.
Okay, if anybody wants to know more, I mean, you can Google oil pulling and you can do your own research, and there's lots of ways of doing it. And if you want, you can just try doing it with regular oil. You can use olive oil, sesame oil, sunflower oil, coconut oil. Just be real careful though, because you want to make sure it's organic, because you're going to have it in your mouth a long time. So you really want to use organic, and if you can, you really want to use extra virgin. And we've actually found this amazing coconut oil in Sri Lanka, and we've actually trademarked the extraction process because it's so pure. So it's the only oil pulling product that I know that's raw, alkaline, organically farmed, and super pure. So we've trademarked it as a Vitalock process. So just be careful. Whatever you do, just look for real super high quality. And you know, if you're tough enough to do it unflavored and just to scoop some out of a jar, and you don't mind it being a bit solid if the temperature is cooler, then you can do it that way. But if you want to make it easier, you can go to mintycoco.com, mintycoco.com. And if you're looking for some for your kids, you can buy Mouth Monsters on Mintycoco. But if you want to know more, go to mouthmonsters.com. Monsters with an S on the end, mouthmonsters.com. And we're super excited. It's a brand new one. We're really, really keen to spread the word about Mouth Monsters because the American Dental Association say that children's tooth decay and gum disease are the #1 chronic childhood disease. #1 chronic childhood disease. The Australian Dental Association says our children's oral health is in crisis. It's the same in the UK. Jamie Oliver's recent film about sugar highlighted that 26,000 children, little children, have baby teeth extracted under general anaesthetic in the UK alone. 26,000 a year. Wow. That's just huge. So we're talking about hundreds of thousands of children affected. Here in Australia, a friend of mine is a dentist and teaches dentistry as well. And Kim was saying that in the UK, dentistry was a problem. And yet here, her words were, she's shocked to the core by the state of oral health in children. And recently, they removed every single tooth from a 6-year-old girl. Every single tooth, because of tooth decay. And it's not uncommon, according to senior officials in the Australian Dental Association, it's not uncommon for 2- and 3-year-olds to have all of their teeth removed. This is baby teeth. The problem is the baby teeth are guides to the big teeth. And so if you have serious tooth decay and gum disease in a child, then that's setting up real problems for the future. And if that wasn't bad enough, whatever age you are, if you have gum disease, it increases your chances of type 2 diabetes by 700%.
My goodness.
Yeah, so type 2 diabetes, heart disease and stroke are inextricably linked with gum disease. And 2 weeks ago, scientists at the University of Melbourne announced they are developing a vaccine for gum disease. Currently, it's only in animal tests, and because it is such a serious problem, and yet oil pulling really addresses that. It's such a simple thing to do. It's proven, it's clinically proven, but because of misconceptions, people think, oh, it would take me too long, I couldn't do it, I may have tried it once, it was messy. And when I tried it, you know, I used to hate it, it made me gag a bit to start with, to do it with Royal. I went on holiday, I took a jar of coconut oil in my suitcase, ruined a heap of clothes, I dropped a jar on the bathroom floor. I thought this could be a better way. So we created little Mintycoco sachets, single sachet a day. It just makes life easier. It's just an option. And I think it's all about making life easier and doing the right thing. And so we source organic products. We work with farmers who are getting accredited for fair trade. You know, we've got a complete circle of how we work with people, and we give back to a Sri Lankan charity as well, helping children to escape from extreme poverty in Sri Lanka, because that's where our coconuts come from. So that's what we mean by Humanity Plus Business, completely unlinked with, completely disconnected from the sort of corporations who are funding the arms trade, for instance, or funding something like Apple. And if you look at the Dakota pipeline disaster, with 14,000 people protesting against that in the snow, in sub-zero temperatures, those people are totally. Then if you look at the banks who are funding and making rolling credit available to the companies involved in the pipelines, I personally don't want to be involved with that.
No.
So I think, it's possible now, because there's so much more transparency, it's possible for all of us to think, how do I want to live? And if I was in heaven, would I be eating that, or would I be putting things in rabbit's eyes, or would I be fracking in heaven? Would you?
No, we'll be oil pulling all the way.
Thank you for asking about that. So that was a changing. There's a few things to do before lunchtime as well, but those are some anyway.
Now I want to move on from there to the raising vibrations through dietary supplements, because this is a matter that's hugely, well, raising vibration is something that I work with clients, but through dietary supplements is something that I'm very keen to learn about. So what's the #1 dietary supplement that can raise our vibration, and why do we need to have a high vibration, Angela?
Okay. Well, everything vibrates. Everything in the universe vibrates. The earth vibrates at the Schumann resonance. We know that now. We've known that for over 100 years. And everything vibrates, and our different organs vibrate at different levels. And if something is diseased, it vibrates at a lower level as well, and has different temperatures. So, sound and light are vibrations that we can either hear or see. So it makes sense to think, how should my body be operating at optimum, and what can I do to enhance that? And we know that our bodies comprise a number of different elements and levels, if you like, whether it's spiritual, emotional, physical. And some people seem to think they're very disconnected from their body, and they live in their head, and actually, not grateful for their body perhaps. And if you can learn to be thankful for your body, I think, and take good care of it, then you recognize that there's a number of elements that your body needs. My husband David, who's a managing director, is a biologist, and it comes down to straightforward science, really. You need a certain amount of amino acids in your diet. You need fatty acids. You need activated vitamins and chelated minerals so they can be absorbed properly. You need your botanicals, phytonutrients, and so on. You need loads of water. And it's ideal if it's structured. If it's not, then any water is better than not enough water. And so when you look at those elements, you think, well, where am I going to get that from? And some people, I think the reason, according to research, the reason that people don't take supplements is they think I should be getting it from my food.
But
and of course, it would be perfect if we were. It would be, but in heaven, maybe we would, because we would probably be eating what I call FLOBS food: fresh, local, organic, biodynamic, seasonal. It would be perfect. You'd pick your strawberries and your peas and so on, and there it would be. But we're so disconnected from our food chain now. And my family are farmers. When I was a little girl, if we needed potatoes, Mum would sometimes say, Angela, can you go and dig some potatoes? And dig the potatoes and bring them in, and they'd be cooked. And you couldn't get much fresher than that. Or the peas would be, I remember, riding the pony across the farm and finding the pea patch and spending hours there just podding the little peas, needing all the sweet peas. However, most of us don't have that. And if you could grow your food and pick it fresh, and it was, super local, so it wasn't trucked or stored or refrigerated or sprayed or gassed to stop it sprouting while it was waiting for you to use it. So if it was fresh, if it was seasonal, which meant it would be fresh. If it was organic, so it wasn't treated with Roundup, for instance. Let's just look at some of the things that are put on our food routinely now. Artificial fertilizer, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, I think it's called rotaricides, which is to stop all the rats and things. And then it's gassed, as I said, to stop it sprouting very often, certainly potatoes and sweet potatoes, if they're not organic. So if you look at all of that and think, crikey, I'm absorbing all of that.
Of course.
So that's one side of it. And then the other side is, of course, our farmers are constantly trying to grow the food that we want to eat. And they're trying to grow it as quickly as possible so that, you know, they can hopefully make enough money to feed their own family. Fair enough. And most farmers are divorced from the end consumers now because the supermarkets are in the middle, who are constantly screwing farmers to provide food for cheaper. So farmers are really in a no-win situation. So the problem with the two things they're having to do, which is grow food really fast and grow food that we want to eat, is the food is growing really fast, so it can't take up the nutrients in the ground, even if they were in the ground. And there are a plethora of reports. You can have a look at them on our website, getyourboomback.com, if you like. We give a lot of links in a lot of our articles there, whether you're looking at Harvard reports or a lot of deep science reports saying how deficient food is in vitamins and minerals now compared to just a few decades ago. So it's not in the soil anyway, because the soil's being managed artificially. So the nutrients aren't there. You can't magic them there. They have to come from somewhere. And the plants are growing really quickly, so they couldn't really absorb it very as thoroughly as they used to anyway. Plus, we as humans like eating sweet things. But nature in her wisdom didn't give us many sweet things. So there was very few and far between. Berries were very short-lived. There wasn't much that was sweet in nature. And I always think it's funny that honey was protected by bees. So, you know, even if there was honey available, you know, there's something stopping us getting it. However, we like sweet things. And so farmers and horticulturalists have been growing plants to be sweeter. Our carrots are sweeter now. I had a pink grapefruit, the first time I'd had a pink grapefruit for years. And it was so sweet. And I remember as a child, it would really pucker you. You know, you wouldn't eat a pink grapefruit, or you'd put a lot of brown sugar and put it under the grill. Right? So now you can eat a pink grapefruit like an orange. But the problem with that is that the bitter and the sour foods often contain a lot more phytonutrients for us. And so coming back to the answer about supplements is, yes, of course it'd be great to get it from our food, but it's highly unlikely you are. Highly, highly unlikely you're getting what you need from your food. And so it's pretty essential to supplement. And if you don't, really you're living in fantasy world, because where is that coming from? And such a lot of our problems are that we're not feeding our bodies properly. And it's a little bit like running a car. You wouldn't expect to drive a car either with no fuel or dirty fuel.
No, I wouldn't.
A lot of our fuel is dirty fuel. It's contaminated. And wouldn't it be great if instead of foods having to be labeled as organic, the inorganic or the non-organic foods had to be labeled with what it was applied to it? So I don't think I would buy something, the Kellogg cereal that admitted it was GMO, glyphosate, nitrogen fertilizer, and all of the different pesticides, herbicides, etc. So it would be great if it was like that. So that's really the reason, to raise your vibrations, to raise your physical and mental and emotional and spiritual well-being by giving your body the simple basics that it needs.
And I think too, people just have to look at how they feel. Are they sluggish? Are they tired? Are they dehydrated? Are they unwell all the time? You know, and a lot of people are very negative in their mindset as well when they're deficient, because they just they're not functioning to their optimum potential. So they can be very, very quickly fixed with supplements.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And now we know that inflammation of the body underpins so many illnesses. Depression, for instance. Inflammation is always there in cases of depression, as well as a lot of physical things, whether it's diabetes, type 2 or arthritis, osteoarthritis, whatever it is, if we can fix that inflammation, and one of the ways that the body is inflamed is, there are lots of ways, but if it's not getting the right foods, if the foods are too acidic, if they're contaminated and so on. So if you can have more alkaline food and the right supplements, it makes a huge difference. So maybe it's not just one's negative outlook, it's the fact that there's a cause for that.
Yes.
Yeah. It's getting a little dark here. It's been a great day in Australia. I'm just going to switch some lights on a minute before I disappear.
So if you have just tuned in, we're talking with Angela Wright today about living like it's heaven on earth. And we're just to the discussion about supplements. And I'm imagining you have some U-Butte supplements that you would recommend for those that are really needing a lift and a boost to perform a little better in their lives.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, first of all, look at what you've already got in the cupboard and take a good hard look at that. And sometimes you've got something there and you can use that. Check the use by dates, check the ingredients, check the quantities. Now, the supplement business has been infiltrated largely by the pharmaceutical industry. And so there are a lot of supplements which aren't worth taking, to be quite honest. So you do need to check the ingredients and check the quantities, because clinical trials will say, okay, with so many milligrams or whatever it is of this, we had this outcome with these human participants. So have a look at that. So firstly, have a look at what you've got and do some research. Amino acids actually are one of the most overlooked, I think, of supplements. And a few years ago, I flew to Norway to meet the owners of a company making a patented amino acid formula. It's a fascinating story. There was a Dr. Davidson from Canada back in the 1920s who looked at eggs, chicken eggs, and thought, okay, so a chicken hatches out of this egg in a matter of weeks. And so let's look at the stages. And he realized that on the 9th day, the egg white, the albumin, is really alive, bursting at the seams with everything that the chick is going to need to go from nothing, a little speck of nothing, to a chick hatching out. And as a farmer's daughter, this made perfect sense to me. And we used to hatch a lot of chicks, and it's always a little miracle every single time. So Dr. Davison was doing a lot of work with this. He was looking at it from a cancer prevention and cure problem. And I'm not saying this does that, because one's not allowed to say that at all. You're not allowed to claim any cure or treatment for cancer at all. So he was looking at this, and he presented to the third International World Cancer event, and shortly afterwards he died. And then a few decades later, the Norwegian government, for some reason, picked up his research and did a lot more and carried out some clinical trials. And the person that I flew to meet in Norway was one of the two scientists involved in that, who bought this patent from the Norwegian government and went ahead with creating supplements with it. And the ingredient is called YTE, and it stands for young tissue extract. However, the YTE is the trademarked name. And I'd learned about this, and I learned that there were some supplement companies who had started using it, were getting great results, and then were reducing the quantity until they didn't put any in at all. And because it's a very expensive ingredient in relative terms, and most supplement companies make a lot of profit and mark up their costs a lot, and it's highly lucrative industry. However, this is a very delicate, rare ingredient. It's made by one manufacturer in Norway, which is salmonella free for eggs, which is important. Not many countries in the world are free of salmonella in eggs. Certainly America isn't. And so I thought, well, hang on a minute, here's something that's clinically proven, has a huge impact. I'd tried it, I'd used it over a period of time, realized the impact on me, looked at all of the research and so on. And yet I thought this has been used by the wrong people who stopped using it and weren't very straightforward about that fact. So I flew to Norway and met with them and co-founded a business called Get Your Boom Back. And we created amino boosters, which contains the clinical dose of this YTE. We put it into a formula of our own with ginkgo biloba, so different botanicals, different amino acids, and it just works really, really well. And the thing about YTE is because it's from freeze-dried egg white albumin, the amino acids, all 22 amino acids, are in perfectly natural synergistic quantities, if you like. So whereas most amino acids are artificially made and sort of put together artificially, this is completely natural. So so that's a jolly good first starter. It's clinically proven to help reduce the stress hormone cortisol, which impacts depression, aids muscle recovery, and as you get older, your muscles diminish. It's really important to have more protein, more amino acids, and help your muscles recover faster. And it's super good for libido as well. And if you have a good libido, then that's a good indication that you have a strong vitality and a strong life force. In fact, during the research of this, our children banned us from saying the word libido.
Oh, I don't blame them. I banned that word in my house when I was growing up too.
Yes, exactly.
That, really? So I love this, Angela, and I can see from your vibrancy, you're just about jumping out of the camera here. So you're obviously a product, of your research, of your desire and your passion to put health and wellness out there into the lives of many others. How long have you had your company?
Well, thank you. We'll Get Your Boom Back just started in 2014, but this is the result of decades of research, really, because in the UK, I've been in business for a long time, and I was in a completely different industry, and yet always looking at the health impacts and being a very practical person, from a farming background. I was always really interested in facts over hype. And reality instead of promises. So in the UK, I actually founded and ran a theme park for 20 odd years. It was like running a little town or city, if you like, but that was all about enabling children to realize their own capabilities and courage through adventurous play, and enabling families to have quality time together, have maximum fun together. So we grew that to 2 theme parks, and it was just a magical way to live. And you could really create a reality there. You could really see families come in, and they might be a little bit, scratchy or whatever with each other, and they'd come and they'd play, and they would have this wonderful time, and they would leave, just happy. And so it was a magical time. But during that, I helped my father address his gout just with a natural cure. After he said to me in the end, look, I've had this gout for ages, I'm crippled with it, I can't go out doing what I want to do, playing golf or whatever, doctors can't fix it, what can you do? I did quite a lot of research and discovered that if you eat half a dozen dark-skinned cherries a day, that fixes the problem. It's ridiculously simple, but there's a compound in cherries that has a real impact on gout. So it's just one little example. And then my mum, unfortunately, really sadly, had developed cancer of the pancreas, and I didn't know as much then. It came out of the blue, and I was fortunate to be able to go home, care for mum for 2 months, and that's all mum had, 2 months from discovering it. And I thought that, this is so ridiculous. We need to find out more. We really need to be addressing this. I need to be with people, hanging out with people, learning from people who know a lot more of what's going on, because essentially she had amazing medical care, and the people were amazing, the doctors, the nurses, the hospice people, absolutely amazing. But it always seemed as if we'll just give up. We'll just give up now. There's nothing that can be done. And if I'd known then what I know now, we would have gone to some different clinics and so on as well. But But it's sort of going backwards before that as well. It's what causes these issues.
Yes.
And no doubt that when we're under stress, then our bodies cannot perform. Our bodies, our minds, our spirits, our souls cannot perform as well. And stress comes in a lot of different ways. And one of the simplest is the food that we eat. It's so simple. Just like driving that car, you know, you wouldn't go to a garage that you knew dished out dirty fuel and it made your car splutter and stop. And yet our bodies tend to splutter and stop. Then we keep putting the dirty fuel in. And people say organic's too expensive, but really, is it? You know, if you address what you're buying. So there's yes, so that's I think the most important supplement, I think, is looking at amino acids and then looking at your diet holistically as well. The other one I would think is making sure that the vitamins and minerals that you use are the right sort for your body. So activated vitamins, chelated minerals. We brought out a product called My Happy Booster, nicknamed Boostify, and it's a drink mix, and it's got all the vitamins and minerals that you need in the right quantities, and also botanicals, including ashwagandha, which is a brilliant botanical, and you can just mix this up with some water or juice or whatever. You can just have it with water. It tastes great. Taste of oranges, peaches, mangoes. It's pretty good. Yeah. And it's just a great way to get your vitamins and your minerals and your botanicals, and that has a huge impact on you. So I really, after creating amino boosters, we then created one called Amino Pure Plus as well for people that couldn't tolerate ginkgo biloba, because if you're on anticoagulants or if you're on epilepsy medication, for instance, you can't take ginkgo biloba, and yet it's one of the most widely taken herbs in the world. So for the vast majority of people, it's a really good idea. So that's in amino boosters. Amino Pure Plus doesn't have that, but all the people that said to me, Angela, I really want to take it, but I can't because, so we brought out Amino Pure Plus for them. But then I really thought, okay, so I know this addresses cortisol, I know this addresses stress, and yes, it helps with depression, clinically proven. And yet, what could we take that's like an immediate impact on boosting your serotonin, you know, the happiness chemical comes from your gut. What can we take that's going to immediately boost that, a noticeable boost to your happiness, and that will also build over time to bring you like to a state of calm joy, like you might have had as a child. You know, just as a child, you can just joyful, can't you? And yet, as adults, we tend to get so distracted and caught up in the busyness of life that we can forget that, and our serotonin production system, you know, slows right down or stops. So I was looking for something that would address that. So that's our Boostify, My Happy Booster drink. But as I say, you haven't got to have these products, but whatever you do, look for something really good quality. If you have a look on our site, it'll list the types of vitamins and minerals you should be going for, because some are much more expensive than others, cheaper versions which your body can't absorb. So just make sure you're getting the right sort, and make sure you're not paying too much for it, otherwise you probably won't keep on taking it. So we're not an MLM, we're not a pharmaceutical company, both of whom make huge profit margins. That's the way they operate, but we're a family business. We've got some great people on our medical team, and we have very small profit margins because we want everybody to be able to take what they need to take.
I love that. I love it, Angela. And you're right about the kids with the serotonin, because my daughter often says, I love little kids. They are just so happy. And we do every time we see a kid around, you know, a child that's just skipping or just laughing hysterically, you know, it just, how good is that for our body, our soul? You know, that's the vibration of love and joy. It doesn't get any better than that.
Yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And
it can be contagious, you know. So I think another thing is look around you. And there's a great line I did the rounds a while ago, and it said, before you think you're depressed, look at who you're spending time with. It's very easy to be brought down by people, and everybody's on their own journey, and it's not our job to fix anybody. It's just not. It's not your job to fix anybody. It's not my job to fix anybody. So if you are staying with someone because they're so miserable and unhappy and they're making you miserable and unhappy. Maybe you are prolonging their misery. Maybe you're not allowing them to understand the lesson that the world is giving them because you're constantly trying to shield them from it. And it's not your job to be made miserable by somebody else.
No,
I think that's a really important lesson, that we are here to be the best person that we can be, to vibrate and to be with other people who are finding some joy. And it's easy to be fooled by people sometimes, you know, but fool me once, you know, what is it? Fool me once, more for you. Fool me twice, more for me. Something like that.
Yes.
And
yeah.
yes, we can all make mistakes, and sometimes we do in, you know, business, personal lives, or whatever. But you haven't got to keep beating yourself up about it.
No.
You can think, well, I learned something from that, but if I keep on doing this, I'm not helping this other person because he or she is plainly miserable because they're, you know, telling lies or being deceitful or just fantasizing or being abusive or whatever it is. And it's not necessary. And everything is energy. We know that. This is Living Energy Day. We know everything is energy, but different people are on different journeys. And we're all here to learn, I think. But if you stop somebody learning because you're constantly trying to protect them and you're taking all of their flack, who are you helping, really?
That's right. And we are all waking up at different stages and ages. And it's important to just be on your own journey, as you say. And I completely 100% agree with you. Hang out with a tribe that resonates with you, that makes you feel good. And if you can't do that all the time, do it most of the time, until you can make that transition, because it's vital to keep your heart happy and find out what makes it sing, what makes you unique and what makes you shine, because that is the contribution we're here to bring to our world.
Yeah, we are.
So I want to recap with you your three happies. The first one was to get up before the sun does, yes?
That's a toughie, isn't it? And we can't all do that, and I don't claim to do that all the time, but what I know is when you see that sunrise, it's a gift. You know, the present is a gift. So if you can, great. But you can only really do that long-term, sustainably, if you get enough Zeds. And most doctors now recognize 7.5 to 8 hours sleep is really your optimum. You heal physically first half of your sleep, then you heal emotionally and mentally. So get some sleep. Get up as early as you can, even if it's just inching it forward 5 minutes a day earlier, if you can. And be grateful. You know, have gratitude and oil pull first thing in the morning. That's always a good thing. Get your supplements in as well, depending on what they are, either before or with or after breakfast, if you can. If you don't take breakfast and they should be taken after food, then just take them after your first, you know, substantial meal of the day, and eat clean food.
Yes.
There's one other thing I just wanted to say, and I learned this from Vishen Lakhiani, who does a great 6-phase meditation. You can find it on YouTube. And I've been lucky enough to have some time with Vishen Lakhiani, who's from Mind Valley.
Yes.
And very clever guy. And he went on a retreat studying meditation and really looking at what mental experience is it that has the biggest impact on you, which gives you the biggest brainwave spikes, which enables you to progress faster. And he was looking at all of these different emotional states, whether it was gratitude or whatever. And the one that had the biggest impact, which was measured, was forgiveness.
Yes.
And such a powerful thing. And so there was a presenter earlier talking about if you could write down everything that bothered you, then just get it out of your system and just keep writing until it's all out there, and then look at what you can do with it. And because it's not something to show somebody else. This is just for you. And also, if you write it by hand, there's it's been some research around the connection between brain and physically writing. It's different than typing or texting to yourself. But if you can actually write down what's bothering you, and you know, if it's a big deal, write a letter to somebody, of all of the things that you feel some grievance or issue over, and forgive them and forgive yourself for being part of it, and then burn it. Just burn it. Don't show it to anybody. But that's a huge release. And if we can forgive ourselves for mistakes we've made or learning experiences we've had, and if we can forgive others, and and be grateful for it all, then it's easier said than done. I'm not saying that you can do it in 5 minutes, but it has a profound impact. And remember, we're all interconnected, because that's the way the universe works. And so when we forgive and when we're grateful, not only do our brainwave patterns change, but our vibrations raise as well. And when we can look after ourselves and nurture ourselves more with great food, proper supplementation, good healthy practices, then that has a huge impact on us. And Gandhi said we have to be the change we want to see in the world. So the only thing we can do is inspire. We can't force somebody to do something differently. All you can do is inspire and enable. So I think those are the things. Those are the lessons that I've learned anyway.
Yeah, I love that. And just to top that off for you with the vibration thing, once we're up here vibrating, we're on that frequency, and others rise to that. So we become a magnet for more of what we do want and much less of what we don't.
Yes.
And I think that the gratitude, the forgiveness is in A Course of Miracles. It's all entwined. It's a beautiful thing to do. And it can stop all sorts of ailments and all sorts of things too. So Angela, what a delight. That time went so fast.
Thank you, Michelle.
Please tell everybody where you can be found.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I'd love to chat with anybody that wants to get in touch. You can reach me at mintycoco.com. That's Angela at mintycoco.com, or at getyourboomback.com. That's Angela at getyourboomback.com. You can find me on Facebook or Twitter or wherever, but those are the two easiest. Angela at either mintycoco.com or getyourboomback.com.
And of course, we'll have the links going up with the recording.
Mm-hmm.
Those of us that have joined us live, thank you for joining in. And it's lovely to be here. We are the Living Energy Day, and we are having a ball floating around the world for a 24-hour marathon. We are actually helping to raise funds for a young lady in South Africa. You can find out more about that on our website as well. Our next presenter for today is Dawn Lord. So we'll be heading over there next. And Angela, again, thank you so very much for your time.
My pleasure. It was great to talk with you and to hear some of your wisdom as well, Michelle. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, my pleasure, Angela. I will catch you soon.
See you soon.
Bye, everyone.